Not all filmmakers are appreciated during their lifetime. This unique and visionary Italian director was tragically taken from this world far too soon. His demons and monsters still haunt the minds of those who have seen his films, yet his work remains critically underseen by horror fans. This is the story of Fabio Salerno and his deep night in the other dimension.
Sapevo che saresti tornato.
Credo che ricordo un
Fabio Salerno did not start off life like most people. Fabio was stillborn. Doctors were able to resuscitate him, and from that moment on, sealed Fabio's strange relationship with death, and in turn, made him interested in his own mortality at such a young age. Fabio grew up faster than his peers. He was bigger and taller than most of the kids his age. At first, the neighborhood children were intimidated by Fabio's large and looming structure, but once they actually got to know him, they realized that he was a nice guy with a kind heart. Fabio made friends with the children in the neighborhood, and they all began to make movies together. Fabio took his friends' interest and molded their talents to aid him. Some friends were into music, so they would make the soundtrack to his films, and others loved working with art, so they would help the animation and the titles. Fabio was always the storyteller, always the director. His movies were his vehicles, but his friends helped him achieve his final vision. And as Fabio grew older, he continued to make more and more films. Dozens of short horror films. Fabio was always the director, cinematographer, screenwriter, assistant director, and special effects artist. Fabio made all the special effects himself and even cast molds of his friends. But Fabio's dreams weren't always the most kind to him. Fabio had nightmares and fears growing up that eventually became his films. He lived his fears through film. Influenced by Argento, Fulci, Bava, Cronenberg, and Romero, he believed horror was the essence of cinema, and it's hard to argue with him. Friends say that Fabio's films were very personal to him. Each film was born from within him, lived inside of him, and that is part of the reason that he filmed in his house, neighborhood, and locations that he knew very well. I would like to think that money would play a factor in filming locations, but maybe I'm wrong. His one friend disagrees with my thought. He says the films were born from Fabio, from within him, and that is why he filmed at the places that he lived. Not for convenience, but because he was telling a story about himself. And what stories did Fabio tell? What nightmares did he unleash? Before his untimely passing in 1993, Fabio had made 2 feature films, Deep Night in 1991 and The Other Dimension in 1992. Deep Night is a fairly simple story that mixes Lovecraft with the style of Argento and follows a struggling comic book artist named Pablo. As the film opens, we hear and see Pablo upchucking in the toilet. His body can't handle alcohol at all, and even if he has 1 glass, it's like having 10 for him. He still wants to try alcohol from time to time, but even if he drinks half a glass, he thinks he'd still clog all the pipes in his building. The next morning, he goes to the local bar to talk to his friend, the bartender. Over a cup of tea, they talk, and the bartender realizes that Pablo is really down on his luck, so he offers him a side job. You see, the bartender just bought an abandoned pool hall that has been closed for many years, and he needs someone to help clean it up. Pablo agrees, and when they get there, we find out why the pool hall was abandoned for all these years, and why it was so cheap. 4 people were found dead in the building, and they all died from fright. While cleaning, Pablo finds a small pyramid puzzle. And if you've been watching Fabio's films in chronological order, this should look familiar. The events of Deep Night actually takes place after Fabio's previous short film, Midnight, from 1986. In Midnight, an emergency room worker finds the same pyramid in the hands of a burnt corpse. He takes the pyramid home with him, and strange things begin to happen to his family, leading to them going to a pool hall where unspeakable things happen. So yeah, Deep Night is a pseudo-sequel to Midnight, but you don't have to see Midnight to understand Deep Night. Only the pyramid is the real connective tissue, and while the horror events follow said pyramid, a lot of the spooks are very different. Same setup, but very different results. Pablo takes the pyramid home and he can't figure out how to put it together again. His girlfriend, Christina, comes over and watches him work on his comic, which looks awesome, by the way. Eventually, the conversation leads to the puzzle, and Fabio fixates on it until he's able to complete it. When the puzzle is complete, the tape player stops, the TV turns on, and hey! That's Suspiria! I would be so good at Rubik's Cubes if every time I solved one, an Argento movie started playing. And that's not the only weird thing that happens. Christina uses her lighter for a cigarette, and the lighter explodes into flame. Later that night, after Christina leaves, even stranger events take place. Fog surrounds the small pyramid, strobe lights appear under Pablo's bed, and when he wakes up, his closet door closes. Someone or something is watching him, and from this point on, he is never alone. When he tries to stay awake, he goes to his bathroom, and there's a guy in his bathtub filming the whole thing. Hi, Fabio. Pablo tries to fight off sleep, but he ends up dozing off on his couch. As strobe lights reappear in the hallway, we can see all those amazing horror posters. Anyone with a lot of horror movie posters is probably a pretty cool dude. The objects in the room become animated due to the power of the pyramid. A wire wraps around his wrist. A bottle of booze gives him a little drink. Oh dang! Talk about an evil spirit. I wish an evil spirit would do that to me, because my arms get tired. And then the floating scalpel cuts holes into his hand and belly. Pieces of the pyramid slide into his wounds. When Pablo wakes up, he feels sick from the alcohol, but it was nice of those evil spirits to bandage him up. Pablo goes to the doctor's office to pad out the runtime. You really needed to spend doctor fees for them to tell you to stop drinking and to get some sleep. I could have told you that! Even though Pablo tries to fight it, he again dreams the next night. His hand lights up, bed sheets slide off of him, he is lifted in the air, exorcist style, and then his ceiling talks to him. God, I love this scene. Luckily, Christina is there standing in some Argento-inspired lighting. Pablo describes the dream as if it was feeding off of his fear. Christina checks the ceiling and yeah, it appears that Pablo is going crazy after all, but she still loves him. Pablo feels that something must be done, so he goes out and purchases candles and religious symbolism. Christina sees all this and makes him stay at her place, and at first it works. He has a great night's sleep with her. But when she leaves for work, the horror truly unfolds. What kind of monsters lurk in the halls? What kind of torture will Pablo face in the deep night? Oh my goodness, I love this movie. Sure, the film is cheap and a bit amateurish, but that should be expected with a truly independent horror movie from this period. Yeah, a lot of the film was shot at Fabio's own house, but there were still a variety of locations which made the world feel lived in. Lead actor Luigi Scroy, who played Pablo, was apparently very professional on set. He helped with the project and was very hands-on with making it all work. Simona Brusoni, the other lead in Deep Night who played Christina, was so good in her role, however, there were some issues behind the scenes. She cut her bangs in the middle of the shoot, which shocked everyone on set. This ruined the film's continuity. Since this wasn't a big budget film, everyone tried to find a workaround. Let's just say got a little stormy on the set, but everyone was able to move past the incident. Despite little hiccups, Fabio was always cheerful on set. He'd crack jokes and try to lift the spirits. Watching the behind the scenes gives you a good idea of who Fabio was. A tad quiet, but always trying to lighten the mood. Fabio didn't shoot a lot of pickup shots. He was always very direct with what he wanted, which made editing hard. Friends said shooting like this is very risky, but Fabio had a great talent with knowing what he wanted ahead of time and always made it work. Some of Deep Night drags a bit, but Fabio's dark imagination is on full display and the lighting is on point. I love how simple the story is, yet how nothing is truly explained. It's phenomenal on so many levels, and the talent of Fabio is evident, even if the final product isn't a masterpiece. Deep Night did get a small amount of distribution, so Fabio wanted to follow it up with another feature-length film. This time, to get his inspiration, he had to go head first into another dimension. Fabio came up with the idea to make an anthology horror film for two main reasons. Reason one was that he loved Creepshow and other movies like it, and reason two was cost. Shooting on 16mm isn't cheap. To offset cost and production, he filmed one story at a time. He raised more funds, and then he would shoot the next one. And just months before Fabio's untimely death, he began to work on his final feature film, simply titled The Other Dimension in 1992. The film opens with some great spooky imagery, plenty of colors, cobwebs, and hey, that's a copy of Deep Night.
Si sono trovati protagonisti di storie incredibili.
The narrator, who has a wonderful spooky voice mind you, picks up some reels and runs them on the projector. I love this setup. It's simple, atmospheric, and has just enough camp. It's a version of the Twilight Zone for horror film nerds.
Qualcuno potrà riconoscersi in questi racconti che sembrano il frutto di fantasia, ma fanno parte dell'altra dimensione.
The first story is fairly short, but brilliant. A lonely guy laments that his girlfriend ran off to live her life without him. She left a vague and cryptic voicemail telling him not to look for her, and she can't tell him why. This tears this poor guy up, and he remembers all those wonderful times they shared together. I mean, that one good time they shared together. Like, no matter how often he flashes back, it's only this one scene. The guy goes crazy thinking about his lost love, and then he comes up with a terrible plan to get her back one last time. He plans to sneak into her apartment, drug her, and have his way with her. Little does he know that she may have planned for this all along. After the deed is done, he meets her old boyfriends in a crazy and shocking finale. The next story may be even shorter than the first. It stars the actor who played Pablo from Deep Night in his trademark white shirt and all. He is talking to his ex-girlfriend Sylvia, who left him for some jerk who is into voodoo, cults, and demonic rituals. That's why she's here, to run from this voodoo cultist boyfriend who's currently living in her house. Not Pablo here agrees to go over and kick out this jerk. He doesn't believe in voodoo, but he knows that his ex Sylvia isn't being treated well. Well, when he gets there, he finds out how real voodoo can be. The first two stories fly by and the other dimension starts off feeling like a fast-paced horror-thon. But then the third story slows everything down to a crawl. The first two anthology segments are told within the first 30 minutes, while the last story takes up over 45 minutes of the movie's runtime. Well, is the final story at least good? We start with a breakup. This is Dario and Madalena. Madalena isn't doing well and has been in and out of mental hospitals. Dario is fed up with her and how she's always talking about another guy. Well, he calls a cab and tells her to go stay with that other guy.
Ne parliamo quando ti sarai calmato.
No, sentila che arriva la diagnosi. Comunque non mi chiamare più.
That night, Madalena calls and leaves a voicemail, apologizing and gaslighting him by telling him that they are both not well and that she's so sorry that she had to see him like that. Madalena's sister will come by to pick up her stuff. After some time, Dario does meet with Madalena's sister. Through conversation, we find out that Dario isn't doing well after all, and neither is Madalena. The sister convinces Dario to check in on Madalena, and when he gets there, he finds her sleeping, so he just creepily waits in a room for her to wake up. Well, she doesn't wake up. You see, she took some pills before Dario got there, and her heart stops beating by the time he figures it all out. We get some stylized imagery from beyond, followed by a touching monologue from Dario. No matter what happened in the past, he truly loves her. He says that he'll never leave her, and he'll always be right by her side. We then cut to the graveyard after she was buried, and we hear her calling out to him, telling him that they need to be together forever.
Voglio stare insieme a te. Portami via di qui. Portami via.
Dario wakes up from this dream and continues to talk to his lost love. It's been 2 days since she died, and soon her sister will look for her. So Madalena talks from beyond the grave, begging Dario to eat her flesh so they can be together forever. Dario prepares her first by washing her in the shower and then using an electric knife to cut into her leg. There is some great practical effects at work, and the whole thing is rather disturbing. He cooks her little by little in the oven and then enjoys her over the next few days. Will Madalena's sister find her? Will the detectives, who are hot on Dario's tail, figure it all out? Or will Dario get away with all of it? You won't want to miss this pulse-pounding conclusion to the other dimension. Holy crap! This one rocks too. It's a shame that the other dimension was basically unreleased because Fabio died shortly after finishing it. It's a solid flick. I love the anthology aspect and it works really well with Fabio's form of storytelling. I loved all the different characters, and for the most part, all the actors did great. Fabio had a way with working with actors that made them feel at ease and they wanted to work with him. Each story had a phenomenal ending that really sticks with you, and I love all of them. However, I think the last story went on a little too long. Each shot kinda lingered, and while the story is fairly robust compared to the other segments, it doesn't warrant a 47-minute runtime. I really wish that the third segment had been trimmed down a bit. It really drags on too long. Adding a fourth story could have balanced some things out and improved the overall pacing and impact of the film. And that's not the only issue with the other dimension. The cast and crew noticed that there was less joy coming from Fabio. In retrospect, it became very clear to Fabio's friends that true darkness was just beyond the corner. Fabio was experiencing bad mood swings during this time, which led to a less playful and humorous set compared to Deep Night. Fabio started to joke around with a lot of his friends about some dark and serious matters. At the time, friends thought it was funny, but in hindsight, they realized that there was some truth behind it, and in a way, it was a cry for help. Fabio's curiosity with the afterlife and his depression finally took its toll on him, and in 1993, at the tender age of just 29 years old, Fabio took his own life. To this day, his friends miss him dearly, and they talk so fondly of him. And his films aren't subtle about his struggles in real life. As I said earlier, Fabio had nightmares and fears that eventually became his films. He lived his fears through film, from the nooses to self-harm to even idolizing taking one's life. The fear he felt, the paranoia he lived with, it's on full display. And even though Fabio is no longer with us, his work still remains. Even if his films have gone underseen and criminally underappreciated, there are some that admire and value his brilliance. The good folks at Bleeding Skull are spreading awareness. They have released Fabio's complete works on Blu-ray and have partnered with Vinegar Syndrome to do so. And this release is one of the best I've ever seen. Annie Choi, a member of Bleeding Skull, was on the In Search of Darkness 1990-94 edition and sang praises for Fabio there. She's honestly the best part about that documentary, and once I saw her cover Fabio's work, I was hooked. And I guess that's why I'm making this video. To celebrate Fabio Salerno and his twisted yet beautiful mind. I fell in love with his monsters and demons, and I hope I can share that love with all of you. These aren't the best films ever, and yeah, maybe Fabio would have never have made it big, but these are 100% the DNA of Fabio Salerno. It's his vision, his art, and his soul on full display. Not compromised in any way. This is Fabio's legacy. It's his life, and it's his deep night in the other dimension. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you like this sort of deep dive into an unknown director, maybe an unknown horror movie, give me a like or maybe subscribe. It definitely helps the channel and it lets me know what you all like so I can start making more of that content for all of you. Next week is a slasher classic, or that's what one of my friends says. So I'm excited to dive into it. Mid-80s slasher. I don't want to give too much away, but it's gonna be a blast. I hope to see you there. Again, thanks for everything. Bye.